Going to use lacquer thinner for cleaning the paint gun. I already started to take the paint gun apart and look through it and found out that I left it in a bad way last time I used it. So we'll be cleaning that. I'm going to do a video of that right now. Okay. Open this up. The cup is not in too bad a shape. It's got a slight hint of red in there. I remember painting a car red. It has to be 9 or 10 years ago, but I'm not sure about that because I don't remember when the last time I did any body work on my truck. But there's white paint on the paint gun and red, and there's signs that red is the last color that I painted. Take the nozzle off of it. This doesn't really need much. It's got little slight hints of red inside the very bottom of it, but very slight. It's not really a problem, I don't think. But I'm still going to soak it because it's got paint all the way around it and it's got some red in here. I'm just going to go on ahead and put some lacquer thinner. This lacquer thinner appears to be a little milky. I don't know how that happened. I guess maybe the top wasn't sealed and absorbed a little moisture, but it's old. Soak that a little bit more, a little deeper. Or maybe I poured some back in the can after doing something like this before. Now this nozzle right here, this thing lets your liquid out. That's a pin that closes. You can see the point of it right here when you pull the trigger back. The point right inside that hole there, that, see that going in? That comes out. I already counted the threads. It's 1 3/4 threads to where it stops. Pull that off of there. It's got a spring on it. Squeeze this, then it comes out here where you can get a hold of it. Pull it out of there. Yeah, and this is dirty. See, it's got paint all over it. We gotta get that, clean that off of there. And I could take this nozzle off here too. There's a little razor slit in it for an air bleed. I'll probably take that off too, but first I'm going to go ahead and clean this. Find me a rag here. Get a fly fall in there already. It's a quick die, a quick death for him. Yeah, some of that paint's pretty crusty on there. I didn't do a good job of cleaning the paint gun last time. And you gotta be careful with that when you have hardener in your paint. You never leave mixed paint with hardener in it in the paint cup. You leave that in the paint cup, you'll almost likely to never get it back out if you let that set up in there, because it turns to jelly and then it dries and it doesn't want to melt with this thinner. I mean, it will a little bit, but it's hard to melt it. And I'm having trouble getting this off. I'm going to have to work on this a little bit. I'm not going to spend this whole time on camera doing that. Okay, I got this needle here clean. Now I'm going to take this thing and I'm going to tighten it down. This little thing here this piece right here. I tighten it down, which I already did, and I backed it back off again. And I counted the flat sides of the six-sided nut there. So it was 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it tightens up. And that is not something you have to do exactly. That's just an air bleed. We'll show you that when we get this thing out. But I wanted to count how many flat sides I turned that, since I can only turn it one flat side at a time with this 9mm wrench. Well, this has a little gasket in it, and this is different than the paint guns I've used in the past. They had a little slit in the side of this, and you would clean that with a razor blade. Trying to stay in the view thing here, it's tricky when it's zoomed in like this. Yeah, I'm used to seeing a razor slit in the edge of this, which was an air bleed, and I'm not seeing that on this one. But anyway, this is crusty on the inside. See that? So I'm going to clean that out of there, and I'm going to be careful not to lose this gasket. I went on and pulled this little piece out here too. I don't know what it's called, but I pulled that out. Took a 7/8 wrench in this case, and I'm just going to clean this off a little bit. This thing almost never has anything on it to clean off, just the end of it a little bit. But I just wanted to, since I had enough paint on this thing, I wanted to check and see if there wasn't too much in there. So while I'm getting that, I got this needle clean. This thing here, I'm going to go ahead and drop this down in here and let it soak in there. Yeah, I don't take that good of care of my stuff, do I? I let it, well, I'm always running. I'm always late and can't finish anything. Like right now, my job wants me back to work, and I'm waiting on a part from Freightliner. We got flooded out, and guess what they named the storm that caused the flooding? I don't even live in the South. I live in the St. Louis area in Illinois, right near St. Louis, Missouri. And they called the storm Gordon down in the Gulf. And so the tail end of that storm, which is moving east of us now, it's across Illinois and Indiana now, and all the way over to DC. Actually, it's going pretty far. That storm has caused a lot of flooding around here. There's paint down in here, but I can't get to it. I'm not going to worry about it. I didn't know if I was on camera. There's paint down in here just a little bit, but I'm not going to worry about it. It's not going to come off. This thing was on pretty tight, so I'll put it back on tight. I'm going to have to get a toothbrush and clean this. I'm going to use this needle to clean this thing here if I can. I'm going to try to clean it with that needle. Maybe the back end of it will work better. Yeah, the back end of it's a little bit more square. It kind of scrapes the paint off the sides in there pretty good. May not have to count how far this thing is in there, because this apparently, if it doesn't have that slit in the side, then I don't think it matters how far in it goes, because it's not an air blade like I thought it was. Well, everything seems to slide pretty smooth now. I will go on ahead and put this back in, and to keep this gasket from going in there crooked, I'm going to put this on here. I'm going to assemble it on here first. Otherwise the gasket might go in there crooked. Now I get back on camera. Now I got it assembled there. I got the gasket on there and the pin and everything. Go ahead and push this in there and then screw this back down. I don't think I even cleaned this gun since I used it from the factory. So I might just tighten this down and then back it out those 5 turns again. Not 5 turns, but 5 flats on this hex here. I'll go 1, 2. This was 1 3/4 turns, but that's adjustable. There's 1/4 and 1/2, so now I got to add two halves. 1, 2, and that's the way it was when I used it last. All that does is adjust how much liquid comes out when you're spraying, and this one up here adjusts how much air comes out with it, which will change the fan pattern of the spray. Well, I gotta get a toothbrush and clean this out. And make sure you can see through these air blades. There's 4 of them down here on this, there's 4 of them down here on this brass. You got to be able to see through those, and then these 2 big ones up here, you can't see through those because they're at an angle. They drill the hole in this way and then another hole in that way. But you can use torch tip cleaners to make sure they're clean. But paint doesn't come out of these anyway. Paint only comes out of this down here. Only air comes out of this, so these really shouldn't get clogged up with anything unless you dip it in something, unless paint gets in it somehow, but it doesn't get in there when you're spraying. Well, that's about all there is to the basic paint gun cleaning. This upper valve here doesn't normally need to be cleaned because that's just controlling the airflow that draws your paint out. Like I said, the bottom pin, the one that we cleaned, that's the one that controls your actual liquid flow that comes out of the cup. So it's hopefully it's ready to use. Have to mix some paint up and spray it. By the way, the nozzle goes on there crossways like this, like it is on there now. The reason is because the air comes out of these things here, the 2 sides of these 2 wings of this thing. The air comes out of that, and it just makes a pattern, a big oval shaped pattern that's vertical. It's up and down when these are sideways. So when it's time to paint, I will have a test panel which is probably just a piece of cardboard that we'll paint, and we'll adjust the thing out and make sure that it's ready to paint before I paint the truck with it. I forgot to mention this right here just screws on. It's a filter bulb. They come different colors. Inside of this plastic ball is just a big wad of gauze, and it collects any water droplets that are condensing in your air hose, because as your air pressure drops, the humidity that's compressed in the air will condense and come out as a liquid form when the air pressure drops. Because this thing doesn't run on full blast air pressure out of your tank. Your tank might have 120 pounds of air pressure. This thing, you're only going to run around 50 to 60 pounds of air on this. And so when you're reducing that air pressure coming out of the tank, it will condense into a liquid. The moisture in it will condense into a liquid, and then you'll wind up spitting little droplets of water will come out and get in your paint, and so this stops that. That's just a thinner can here. I just capped it off. Yeah, this will catch those little droplets of water and stop it from spraying. And they're reusable forever, because they'll dry out, and the water that gets in it will dry out. Because like I said, it's just a wad of gauze in there. This is just a little add-on clip that I didn't get on the video when I was cleaning the paint gun. And when I cleaned the paint gun on video, I cleaned it before the paint job, actually several days before the paint job. And well, there's a little basic cleaning you do after you use it that I did not catch on video, and I apologize for that, so I'm just going to try to go over that without actually doing it. And what you do is you pour some lacquer thinner, doesn't matter what brand, or something of that nature that's a real strong cleaner like that. Pour it in the paint after you pour your old paint out. If you have mixed paint, enamel with hardener in it, or any kind of catalyzed paint, you cannot save that. Oh, you can save it for an hour or two, but you cannot save it for any length of time, so you have to get rid of that. So anyway, you pour a little bit of lacquer thinner in there, maybe half an inch. Just shake that around a bit and pour that out, and then pour a little bit more in there and put a rag in there and your hand, if your hand will fit in there, and then just wipe that around pretty good, and then once again pour a little bit more. Excuse me, before you clean the cup out completely, you rinse the cup out, you put your air hose hooked up to the paint gun, you put your siphon tube all the way down in the bottom, pull the trigger, the air is going to come out and it's going to pull the thinner out with it. And you stop, let the thinner run back in out of the siphon tube into the cup, and then do it again, let it run back into the cup. Just keep doing that 3 or 4 times, and that's going to clean out the inside of this siphon tube, and it'll clean a lot of this area inside of here. And then you go ahead and clean out the cup, and you get some rags and wipe around the outside and get, obviously I didn't get 100% of it off, but I did not open this up afterwards. This is the first time I'll be looking in here, and maybe I did, I don't think, because it wasn't very tight. I may have rinsed this out a little bit because it's pretty clean, but normally air is all that runs around the outside of this. The liquid only comes right through that little pinhole there, like I showed on the earlier video. Your liquid paint only comes out of that, and air goes around this, and it gets your paint mixed with air. So that's the one part I forgot to add to the video, so we'll just do this quick clip and throw that in with this video.